Welcome to the Mealer Experience Centre. My name is Lachlan and today we will be talking about the steam combination ovens. The steam combi ovens are my favourite appliance to use. These appliances are incredibly sophisticated, but these can also enable you to get literally restaurant quality results right in the comfort of your own home. So when we look at a steam combination oven, I want to break it down into three categories. Basically, we have a normal oven, like a regular baking oven for example, a normal steam oven, so we can steam food and all that sort of stuff. And then also we have the combination of both. So we can use oven and steam simultaneously, and this is where we can get some really exceptional results. So come with me, let's go through it together, and you'll be able to cook like an expert in no time. Behind me here, I have a couple of different models of the steam combination oven. So here I have a model which is not plumbed in. Here I have a model which is plumbed in, and straight away we have some visible differences between the two. So if you have an appliance which is not plumbed in, you'll have two jugs. On the right hand side, this jug removes, and you can fill it with fresh tap water. So fill it right to the top and place it inside the appliance like so. On the left hand side, you'll have a jug which is a condensate jug. So essentially all of your dirty cooking water will end back inside this jug. It's very rare, but it might fill up and the appliance may ask you to empty this. Irrespective, I would recommend that at the end of cooking, you always empty this because it will have that dirty cooking water, and after a few days, that might start to smell a little bit. If you have a plumbed in combi steamer, like so, you only have the one jug here on the right hand side. Now this jug actually fills itself. So the appliance will fill that up, it then draws it out of the jug also. Basically, if you have a plumbed in combi steamer, it has an inlet pipe and an outlet pipe. So this will continuously feed water as need be, and it will also drain away all that dirty cooking water. So this is really excellent because you don't need to think about anything. You switch the appliance on, start cooking, turn it off, and pretty much the job is done. So very, very straightforward. Another thing to look out for in these compartments is some combi steamers come with a food probe. So if you have it, it'll be in between your jugs, right here. So that simply pulls out, and this is perfect for when it comes to roasting a piece of meat perfectly. So we will talk about this food probe a little bit more in depth shortly, and we'll go through it then. There is also two different size combi steam appliances. Here I have a 45 by 60 model, the same as next to it. But down in this corner, I have a 60 by 60 model. So in terms of cooking, exactly the same. So first of all, let's go through all of your controls. So on your left-hand side, you've got the power button. So that switches the appliance on, obviously. We then have our jug icon over here. When you select that, that will open up your fascia panel. And we can see here, we've got the jug on the right-hand side. Our food probe will live there. And this is the plumbed in model, so we have no jug there. I'll close that. Our bell icon, so if you would like to set a timer, you can press that and it brings up the options to do so. And then also on the right hand side is our light. So that's all of those basic controls, but let's go in a little bit further and go through some of the more in-depth programs in the combi steam oven. When you turn on the steam combination oven, this is the first screen that you will see. So you can see we've got oven functions, automatic program, special applications, my Mealer, and if you swipe across, you have user programs, the settings and maintenance. So this is the starting blocks, essentially. You can pick where you go from here. If we look in our oven functions, this is where we find everything that we can cook with in a manual capacity. So we have all of our normal oven functions. So we can see here I have fan plus, there's combi mode, steam cooking, sous vide. If I swipe across, I have more oven functions. So intensive bake, bottom heat, then we move on to the grills and so forth. So everything's there, and you can choose to use the appliance in a manual method by selecting one of these. If we go back, we also have our automatic programs. Now, using the automatic programs is the easiest way to go about it. You simply select automatic programs. Now everything will be found in subcategories. So let's pretend we want to roast a chicken. I can select meat. You can see I've got 6 further categories. Poultry, another 6 categories. Let's go chicken. Once again, I have another 6 categories. So each time you select something, it'll probably break down into further categories. So there's pretty slim chances that the program you're looking for isn't already on the appliance. Let's say we've got a whole chicken. It says to place the universal tray on shelf level 1, then place the food on the rack and then place on shelf level 2. And now I can start cooking now. I can start this at a certain time, which is essentially delaying the cooking start. I can also tell the oven when I want this food finished, and that will delay that program until the required time also. And if you're curious, you can display the cooking stages. So let's have a look at what the oven intends to do. So we have 2 programs. We've got combination fan plus 200 degrees for 15 minutes with 30% moisture. We then have combination fan plus 150 degrees for 30 minutes with 55% moisture. And we might have a third here actually, yes. Stage 3 is fan grill at 200 degrees for 15 minutes. So I press OK. I can select start now, close the door. And that chicken will take 1 hour to cook. So you might be looking at this program and you might think, well, that's great, it takes an hour to cook, but the oven didn't ask me how big the chicken is, my weight, thickness, any of those sort of questions. And most of the time in a Combi steam oven, these factors aren't as big of an issue as what they would be in a standard oven. So let's think about when you go to a supermarket and you purchase a supermarket roast chicken. If you go to 5 different supermarkets, grab 5 different chickens and compare them, they will taste pretty much exactly the same. Now these are baked massively in massive commercial ovens, and whilst the supermarkets do have a consistent measure in what they order, they will have differences. So as soon as we start to impart moisture into the appliance, we get a massive range of consistency which we can't replicate in any other appliance. And this means that you one day have a smaller chicken or one day a bigger chicken. That smaller chicken won't overcook totally and become really, really dry, but it'll also mean that that bigger chicken will cook through nice and evenly as well. Will each chicken be 100% perfect? It might not be, depending how you look at it. However, it may be a better chicken than what you could cook, knowing about how to use the parameters. So for me, these automatic programs are really, really fantastic, and they can give you some great results at very much an ease of use. One thing that I would really encourage though is that you have a play with your appliance at home, look through all these programs and see what there is. As you can see, I've got a really great range of categories, and in total there's over 150 programs. So plenty there to choose from. If you want to find other recipes, you can hop online to mieleexperience.com.au, and also if you're interested, you can download the Miele at mobile app. We will also be filming some tutorials on the ovens and the steam ovens, so I won't necessarily cover that today, but what we will talk about is using this appliance in combination mode. So if we select our oven functions, you can see I've got Fan Plus, and next to that I've got Combi mode. When I select Combi mode, I then have 3 further options. So I have Combi mode with Fan Plus, Combi with conventional, and Combi with the grill. So these are the 3 most used functions in a normal oven from our research, and we've just combined them with some moisture to give you that extra flexibility. So if I select Combi Fan Plus, you'll see that I've got 170 degrees of oven temperature, but then I've got 60% moisture. I can then select this clock, and I can set a duration or a finish time. If I go back to that previous screen, the oven temperature itself, you might have a pretty good idea of what you want to use, but the moisture, that might start to create a few questions. So with all of the appliances, my recommendation is, if you're not too sure, use the default. The default is the default for a reason. It may not be the absolute best for what you are cooking, but there's a very good chance that it's very close and it will do the job really, really well. I will, however, go through a few other ways in which we can use it. So for example, you might be following a recipe that calls for a water bath. This could be a bread and butter pudding, a cheesecake, a creme brulee, anything like that. Let's pretend we're baking a cheesecake and it says to bake at 120 degrees in a water bath. What I would do, and this is exactly what we do in a commercial scenario, is we change the temperature down to 120, but we increase the moisture to 100%. So essentially, the whole appliance is now becoming a water bath, and it's unnecessary for you to physically have to create a water bath with that baking tray. You can simply grab that cheesecake, pop it onto a shelf, and away you go. You may also have situations where you're cooking a pavlova, and as we all know, we don't want to have too much moisture with the pavlova as it can make it sticky and the pavlova goes soft. This can be hard to manage in some circumstances because ovens can't regulate their humidity. However, in a Combi steam oven, we can. So let's pretend once again your temperature is 120 degrees. We can actually turn this down to 0%. Now the oven is basically controlling the climate inside the oven. So if I press OK, we have got a extremely dry cavity. Any moisture that the oven is producing, or the food's producing I should say, is then being pulled out from the oven. So cooking at 0% is a very, very clever way to cook because any moisture that is created gets removed from the oven. So this gives you an extremely dry cavity, which is really beneficial for things like, as I said, the pavlova or meringues. But even if you are roasting some vegetables and you want to get them nice and crispy, cooking on 0% also can help you do that. Now, when we look at the moisture as well, essentially, the more moisture that we have in the cavity, the faster food cooks. So it's important to realize that. So for example, let's talk about some slow cooking. If I wanted to slow cook a lamb shoulder or a pulled pork or any secondary cut of meat, what I do is I select 130 degrees, which is typical oven temperature, but I increase the moisture to 85%. So this is exactly what I do. This could be for a curry, casserole, beef cheeks, anything that has to fall apart. This is your set program. I would also set your time for about 3.5 hours. Now, if you don't like this scrolling, you can actually click on this and you can type it in. So 3 hours 30, hit OK, and hit OK again. This is the perfect slow cooking program. So something like a lamb shoulder or a pulled pork might typically take 5, 6, maybe 7 hours in your oven, depending on how you do it. Now we can simply pop that product onto a baking tray. You might put some nice spices or flavorings on it, and this will take about 3.5 hours. So it's shortening the length of time, but you will have no compromise in the flavor, the texture, or anything like that. In fact, I would go as far to say that this will give you a better result in the steam combi than what you would receive in any other appliance. That's not to say that a normal oven will give you a poor result, but the controlled moisture that we get in here, as I said before, it's giving us restaurant quality results, which is a really, really great feature. If you're not too sure what moisture level to use, my recommendation would be either check on our website for some recipes that are similar to what you're cooking. Potentially the user manual also has a recipe that's similar to what you're cooking as well, and you can steal the cooking method. But ultimately, if in doubt, I would select the same oven temperature that you need. So let's pretend you need 160 degrees, and you can stick with 60% moisture. This will work for pretty much everything. I know when I bake my lasagnas, I normally increase that to 80%, and we don't get any problems there. But if you were to cook it at 50%, I would also expect to get a fantastic result. So I wouldn't worry too much about the amount of moisture that you pop into the appliance or that you don't pop in, because we'll always get great results. They'll just be slightly different. The more that you use this, the more that you get to know what is good and what isn't good. But also keep an eye out for some recipes that we will upload where I'll take you through them step by step to get some fantastic results, because this is something that can be easy, and it's really important that we just don't overthink this, because as soon as we start doing that, then it will start to become difficult. I have taken us back to the main menu now, and I want to take you into some of the special applications. In here we have some really great hidden gems that not everyone is aware of, and this can really elevate what is possible with this appliance. So when I select the special applications, I've got almost 2 full screens of things in which we can do. So you can see I've got reheating, defrosting, there is one there called mix and match, which we'll come back to, blanching, bottling, drying, proving bread dough, There's menu cooking. If I scroll across, we have disinfecting. There is a Sabbath program for our Jewish community, the keeping warm, and heat crockery. So this is really, as I said, it's extending what's possible with the appliance now, and it's making things even easier for you at home, because you may not need to know what temperature to disinfect something at, but the appliance would know it for you. So let's pretend we've got baby bottles or jam jars or something like that. If I select disinfect items, it says place the containers upside down on the rack. You press OK. Select your time. It defaults to 15 minutes. If you're not sure, 15 minutes is probably bang on the money. You can press OK and away you go. So very, very easy. I'll just go back a screen. We'll cancel that process for now. I want to talk about, first of all, mix and match. So mix and match is one of our newest features, and this really makes using the appliance easier. So we just went through using combination mode in a manual capacity, and depending on how you're feeling with the appliance, that might be something that you're really looking forward to tackle, but you might also be quite unsure of what functions to use and when to use them and all that sort of stuff. So if we hop into mix and match, I have 4 categories. So I have crispy cooking and crispy reheating, gentle cooking and gentle reheating. So let's pretend you want to bake something crispy. You can select crispy cooking. The oven will then ask you your level of browning. You might like your food really nice and brown, so we'll bring that up. You might drop it 1, for example. You can pick exactly what you want. Press OK. It tells you to place the food on shelf level 2. Hit OK once again. I can start now. Close the door. And this is going to take 25 minutes. So for example, you might have some fish and some vegetables that you want to roast simultaneously. This enables you to do that. I would recommend that you have a look at the manual, because there's some food groups which work particularly well together, and that will be found in there as well. Also, on the Meal@At mobile app, we will have a mix and match category where you can see what foods are working fantastically together, because we do need to make sure that we're cooking similar foods on these programs. I'll cancel that program for now, because one of my favorite things to do in mix and match is actually reheat food. So into special applications, mix and match. Gentle reheating is fantastic for your pasta dishes, your curries. Lasagna reheats so well that you wouldn't even know it's reheated. So you might have even a tray of roasted meats. You know, at Christmas time, that's a great example. Select gentle reheating. It says to place the food on shelf level 2. So you do that, and all you do is press start now. So you don't really need to know anything about the background on what's going on. If you are curious, you can select display cooking stages, and it will actually tell you what's happening. So in gentle reheating, it's Combi mode with fan plus at 130 degrees for 17 minutes, and it's using 90% moisture. So essentially what's happening in this scenario is we've got dry heat with the 130 degrees, and we have wet heat with the 90%. Essentially, these two temperatures are wrestling each other. The wet heat stops the oven from drying your food out. That dry heat stops the wet heat from making your food soggy. 90% is extremely humid. Basically, it's a humidity level as well. So the air inside this appliance will be really, really thick, and it really penetrates that food nice and quick. So the amount of food that you're reheating shouldn't matter in mix and match, unless you've got one massive clump. But if you have 8 portions of lasagna or 4 bowls of a curry or something in there, this will reheat really nicely. You'll be able to remove it and eat it straight away. So really, really easy. It's making things so much easier. And mix and match is something that I would definitely recommend that you try, because you're guaranteed to get great results. Another great function that we have here in the special applications is menu cooking. Now, if you're new to steaming food, I would recommend menu cooking to begin with, particularly in those scenarios where you might have 2 or 3 items of food and you're not quite sure how long each item will take to cook, and also when to place in that second or third item into the appliance. So if I select menu cooking, I can pick from a bunch of categories. So you might have some rice, for example. It brings up 5 options. Let's pretend that we have some brown rice. The appliance now tells us to place the rice and the water in a solid cooking container with a ratio of 1 part rice to 1.5 parts water. So your quantity doesn't matter. As long as we follow this ratio, there'll be no issues whatsoever. So you do that, select OK. You then might have 2 different types of vegetables, for example. So let's hop in, let's find some carrots. We can all refer to that. Carrots, baby carrots, small, medium or large. This is where it's a little bit tricky for the first time, because what is the appliance's idea of a small carrot versus your idea of a small carrot? So the first time you try these, I would always recommend to say that your food is small, because you can always cook food for longer, but you can't uncook food. And after the first time, you'll have a pretty good idea of what the appliance is expecting from itself, and then you can change that for the next time. So let's say small, and then it will ask you how well done you like it as well. So you might bring that back ever so slightly if you like a crunchy vegetable, or if you like them a bit softer, take it up as well. So really up to you. We can then add a food. So on menu cooking, it limits us to only selecting 3 items of food. So it's really important that you are aware of that before you start. I would say though that most green vegetables have a very similar cooking time. So you might have a tray of broccolini, asparagus, and some green beans. So we can add a food, select vegetables once again. Let's go asparagus because it's the first one there. Green asparagus, thin, medium or thick. So let's say it's thin. Once again, how well done would you like it? Let's say nice and crunchy still. Bring it back one further. Press OK. And on that tray with the asparagus, you might have some broccolini and some beans as well. So you can kind of mix and match on that tray, but just be aware they should be quite similar in their cooking time. So now that I've selected 3 items of food, it doesn't give me the option to add any more food. So now I simply can select Start Menu Cooking, and the appliance is telling me to add the brown rice. So obviously the brown rice is taking the longest. I'll press OK. So the appliance will now work out how long each item takes to cook, and it will ask us when to add the next item. So the brown rice will take, let's say, for example, 25 minutes. Your carrots might take 5 minutes. So in 20 minutes time, it'll ask you for the carrots. Your greens then might take 2 minutes. So you'll have your rice and your carrots in the appliance. A further 3 minutes will elapse, and then it will ask you for your asparagus. So then what you will end up with is all 3 trays inside the appliance. 25 minutes in total will elapse, or whatever is required for the rice, and everything will be cooked to perfection. So we can also see here I have things like defrosting and reheating. So lots of things that you would normally do in a microwave can be done in a steam oven or a steam combi oven. So just be aware of that next time you do that, because the results in here, because it cooks with water, quite often it rehydrates the food and gives you a much nicer result. So have a play through here as well, have a look around. Next time you make a pizza dough or a bread dough, try proving it in the pre-used dough setting, because that will give you exceptional results also. This isn't the funnest topic to talk about, but it is one of the most important things, and that is how to properly maintain the Combi steam oven. So here we are once again at the main menu. We can swipe across and we have maintenance. In maintenance, we have 4 options. So there's descaling, drying, soaking, and rinsing. In terms of descaling, the appliance will actually give you a warning as to when you should be doing this. So at some point in time, a message on your screen will appear and it will say that you have 10 warnings before you need to descale. This will count down every time you use it. If you get to 0, the appliance will actually lock you out of using any program that uses water until you descale. When you need to descale, it will actually talk you through it step by step. So I won't select it now, because when I do, I start descaling. We then have soaking. Now soaking basically steams the oven cavity. So let's pretend you've baked a chicken for dinner and you've got some nice splatters all around the appliance. This will basically soak and steam the appliance, and you might do this as you're eating dinner. So that will loosen all those fats and oils that may be splattered around from that product. I then treat this on a case-by-case situation. I'll open up the cavity and I'll have a look at it. If I think that there's not too many oils and fats on the surface of the cavity, I'll then select the drying program. Now what the drying program does is it basically switches the oven on and it uses dry heat to dry out the appliance. So it's extremely easy. However, if we still have excess fats and oils in the cavity, there is a risk that you may bake these straight back on. So have a look, make a judgment call, and if you need to, give the quick wipe out and then doing drying process. The rinse is very important. So what the rinse basically does is it rinses out a amount of water through the pipework. So basically the drain inside the Combi steamer, which we can see down here, that is designed to take water waste but not food waste. So you may get some fats and oils throughout your normal baking when you get that. That's okay. If you do a rinse, they'll flush through really nicely. What we don't want to risk is those fats and oils solidifying overnight. So really important that you do a rinse, as that will keep your appliance running smooth and free for a very long time. If we look after all of this, your appliance should stay really clean for a very long time. And in fact, you may never need to give this a proper clean if you just continuously and regularly follow these maintenance programs. But I will go through some cleaning products to use with this very shortly if you need to do a bit more of an overhaul. So I'm just giving you a look now inside the cavity of the oven. On our Generation 7000 Combi Steam ovens, we actually have the ability to lower the grill to ease you with the cleaning. So there's a little point here, you can see my fingers are around now. Give that a good tug and that will actually fall down. Try not to apply any pressure to this grill, as you can still damage it, but now you can get your hand up underneath there to get it nice and clean. When you would like to place the grill back into position, just give it a really nice solid click like so, and that's fixed into position. The side racks in the appliance are just as easy as the grill to remove and put back into the appliance. So literally all you have to do is grab them from the side like so, pull it inwards and then pull it out. This will enable you full access to the entire cavity of the appliance. You can make sure you give this a really good wipe, get it nice and clean, and then when you want to insert it, insert those 2 points to the rear. So pop those in like so, line up that side and push it in like that. So extremely easy. You'll be able to get this oven looking super clean and keeping it clean for its entire lifespan. Next to me here, I've got some of the cleaning products that may be required for you to keep your Combi Steam oven in its absolute best condition. So we're really lucky that Miele actually manufactures all of these cleaning products, which means you have no worries with how this will affect the surface or the actual craftsmanship of the appliance. So basically, the first things first, this is what we call the DGC clean. Now DGC is the code for a Combi steamer. What you would do with this, after a roast for example, you would give the cavity a quick spray inside where all those splatters might be appearing. You then go into that maintenance area that we just went through, select soak. That will run for about 20 minutes or so. Then it's up to you. You might need to give the appliance a quick wipe out and then you give it a secondary soak. That secondary soak is really important to make sure we get rid of all of this residual chemical. If you need to wipe out the appliance, my recommendation is to use a microfiber cloth like so. These are fantastic because the microfiber actually cuts in to all of the oils. Other cloths may smear those oils and it may require a bit more work, whereas these really cut into it and give you the cleanest result with the biggest amount of ease. And finally, you would have received 2 of these with the appliance, but we've got some descaling tablets. So as I said, the appliance will ask you to descale when required, but these are really handy to have on hand, as you don't want to be in that position where you need to descale, but you don't have any tablets. So that's everything that we'll cover for today. I know I didn't cover everything that the steam combination oven can do. There really is just so much this appliance can do that we can't possibly fit this into one video. If there is something in particular that you would like to see, please drop a comment below or even send us a message and we'll do our absolute best to get this out for you so you can get the absolute most out of your appliance. As I said, for more recipes, hop onto mieleexperience.com.au and also feel free to download the Miele mobile app, and I'll see you next time.